Hi everyone, welcome to the Storyist. In today's world, people are usually expecting something in return when helping someone else. People who adopt the whole "what's in it for me" attitude are obsessed with benefiting every time they do something. What they didn't know is that it gives significant consequences in our mindset. Today, I will be telling you a story about a truck driver who saves an unconscious girl and is surprised to see her ID. Stay until the end of the video to find out what happened. Richard was slowly driving along the dense side of the mountain. It was raining hard and had zero visibility. He was returning home after a difficult shift at work, and he had been driving for several hours. He started to feel the heaviness of his limbs, and his eyes were starting to close. However, there's a strange figure on the road that caught his attention. It was a woman. At first, he was stunned and didn't know what to do. Out of instinct, he immediately pulled over and went down to see if the person needed help. The woman was in rugged clothes, splayed out, not moving, and there's blood around the area. As the situation stunned Richard, his breath began to quicken, as his heart rushed its beat. He immediately searched for a pulse, but couldn't find one. As he saw the ID of the woman, he noticed something strange about it and made him step back. Richard had a long and tiring day. His job was to deliver heavy trunks, and it became tedious as he had to drive along the dense side of the mountain over and over again. It was also very dangerous because the mountain was so steep and became very slippery when the rain poured. There were times when he wanted to give up. However, he knew he had to do this for his family to have a better life. His family was in a dire financial situation, and Richard was always worried about money. Back then, he never imagined having this life for himself. Each day, it became uneventful, as it was like driving in a circle. In each round, he was even carrying more loads than usual. His life became tedious, even harder to stump the pedal or to control the steering wheel. He deeply wished for it to change. Then, all of a sudden, he got his wish, but it was not what he expected. As he drove back home, Richard was deep in his thoughts. He thought about his baby girl back home. His eyes started to spark as he remembered how long he waited to become a father, for almost 11 years. How he was blessed with a baby girl. Then suddenly it hit him. The sparks in his eyes faded. The joy in his heart was covered by fear, and the warmth he felt became an ice cold of loneliness. Richard and his wife made a discovery that left them heartbroken. They have been back and forth to the hospital over the past few weeks. Eventually, after running numerous tests, the doctor broke the news. Their little girl's health was deteriorating, and her days were numbered. The doctor told Richard and his wife that their only daughter was diagnosed with heart failure, and there's a cyst formation on her brain. Their daughter needed an operation, but it was so expensive. The doctor even said that she would only last for a year if the operation wasn't done. Richard almost lost his mind when he learned about the situation of his daughter. He and his wife were even more desperate when they found out how much they would pay for the treatment. When the doctor told them the estimated price for the operation, they even became anxious. How would they save that much in just 1 year? Richard promised his wife that he would do whatever it took. He looked for a part-time job and even asked his boss for extra shifts. That's the reason why he was often arriving late at night. That's when he came across the unconscious woman. Due to the heavy rain, the visibility was zero. He reduced his speed to the minimum and drove cautiously. The lights of his truck were the only thing visible on the road. As he wondered if his eyes were playing tricks on him, he saw a silhouette of a woman on the side of the road. Out of instinct, he stepped on the brake, unsure of what's happening. The figure looked like a woman. She seemed not breathing, and there was blood around the area. The incident quickly snapped Richard out of his troubling thoughts. Unsure of what was happening, sweat started pouring on his forehead, his heart beating more than usual. Afraid of what was happening, Richard shouted from his window, asking what happened to the woman, but he received no response. Therefore, he decided to come down and see what happened to her. He carefully took steps where the woman was lying. He then examined the place as he saw the ID laying on the ground. He felt scared about what was written on the ID, but it didn't stop him from helping the woman. He carefully carried the woman towards his truck. He immediately put pressure on and covered her wounds, while wrapping her with a warm towel. He also turned on the heater of his truck, and he then drove swiftly as he could. All thoughts vanished in his mind, and the only thing he wanted was to help the woman. On their way to the hospital, the woman slightly gained consciousness, and as she slowly sat up from her seat, she recovered a little. A few moments later, the woman started muttering words, but it was barely understandable. Richard took this chance to ask her, "Can you hear me?" "What's your name?" Her answer came out in a whisper. "Amelia," she said. Richard suddenly felt something strange on his chest. She was someone familiar, as if he already saw her somewhere else. Setting aside his curiosity, he set more pressing questions. Richard wanted to know what happened to the woman. As tears fell down to Amelia's eyes, she began to tell her terrible story. Her brother and several guys abducted her from their house. Her brother started smashing and kicking her until she was knocked down. Out of anger, her brother wanted her gone for good, as she will be the heir to their family's business. Luckily, Amelia escaped her terrible fate. Richard didn't say anything, and silently wished that she would be mentally and physically okay after this terrible incident. As they reached the hospital, the physician immediately tended to Amelia's needs and made sure that she would not suffer. The nurse began questioning Richard, and they both decided to call the cops to report what happened to Amelia. When the police arrived at the hospital, they began questioning Richard. As Richard explained everything that happened to Amelia, the officers accepted the story and let him leave. Richard's wife and her daughter were so worried because he arrived later than usual. Richard told everything that happened to Amelia. Richard's daughter thought he was a hero because he helped save the woman's life. A few days later, Richard's family visited Amelia in the hospital because they knew that she needed support. Amelia couldn't thank him enough, because without him, she may be gone for now. A month after the incident, Richard and his wife received a call from the hospital. The doctor told Richard that the money needed on the operation of their daughter had just come in. Richard was speechless. Who would help him with such a large amount of money? He thought to himself. Confused about what's happening, Richard's family went to the hospital. The doctor prepared their daughter for the operation. The preparation and the surgery was done in just 2 days. Richard and his wife couldn't express their gratitude. At last, their daughter was free from pain. She's finally going to have a normal life, like the other girls at her age. And she can finally enjoy her life to the fullest. However, Richard was bothered with one thing. Where did all the money come from? He then inquired again to the hospital, but still, the only reply he got was that it was sent anonymously. After several days, Richard and his family received a familiar visitor, and turned out it was Amelia. She looked different now. She looked rugged that day of the incident, but now she was dressed like a very successful lady, a CEO as he described. Amelia smiled as she came closer, and Richard's mouth left agape. His wife greeted the woman. However, Richard noticed something else. It was the ID she was wearing. Richard was right. She was the owner of the famous real estate company. No wonder she looked familiar to him on the day that he saved her life. That was the time when Richard pieced the puzzles together. It was Amelia who saved his precious daughter. That's all for today. We hope you enjoyed that video, and we'll see you on the next. Stay tuned.